What's up, guys? It's Mr. Huynh here. Gonna teach you a lesson on factoring trinomials when a is greater than 1. In the previous lesson from last week, we covered factoring trinomials where a is equal to 1. We established a little X puzzle, and then from there, whatever we found as our common terms, we went ahead and factored by grouping. So we're gonna step it up with the level of problems that you're gonna have to do. I know what we did with a is equal to 1. A lot of you guys were probably trying to figure out, can I do this with mental math? And the answer is probably yes. But that's only when a is equal to 1. When a is greater than 1, it's a little bit trickier, right? Let me just go and do a quick review, right? So let's do number 1. So for number 1, we have x squared plus 2x minus 8. We established that, well, a was equal to 1, b is equal to 2, and c is equal to negative 8. We drew an X puzzle, so we had a times c on the very top, b on the bottom. A times c is negative 8, and the bottom is going to be positive 2. And then we went ahead and came up with, well, what times what will get me negative 8? But we add those two exactly same numbers, it will get me positive 2. So, coming over here, right? We have negative 8 and positive 2. Well, just doing a couple of tries. Let's go 4 times negative 2. 4 times negative 2. Well, that gets me negative 8, which is good. And then 4 plus negative 2. That gets me positive 2. So those two numbers work out. So we have our 4 and we have our negative 2 on the other side. And then we went ahead and split up the terms. So we have x squared, right? We kept the first term, and then we wrote x for the two terms we came up with, so that's going to be plus 4x minus 2x. Oh, forgot the x in that one. So basically, this disappeared, and then the negative 8 trailed at the end. So the first and third term are your ends, so those are always going to remain the same. It's just that middle term splits up into two common terms. And then from there, we went ahead, we split up the first and second with the third and fourth. We found the GCF. Well, the GCF of this one is going to be x. The GCF of this one was negative 2. Make sure you note that there's a negative. And when we factor those out, we have x, parentheses, x plus 4. And the other one, when you divide both of them by negative 2, you have negative 2, x plus 4. And then the first term that they have in common, we're going to put that in with x plus 4. And then this is similar to this, so you have x minus 2. So, I mean, it is pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Now, when a is greater than 1, you can't really take the shortcut. Well, you've been mentioning the shortcut one. What are you talking about? Well, a lot of you guys figured out that you could have just, these two terms are actually these two terms right in here. But it's not going to work when a is greater than 1. We're going to go ahead and do a sample problem to show you why it's not going to work. Alright, so picking a problem, we're going to do number 5. Alright, I'm going to choose a bigger number for you guys. So we're doing number 5. Now, the process is exactly the same for number 5. We're just going to go ahead and identify our A, B, and C. So A is equal to 3, B is equal to 11, and our C is equal to negative 20. And note that A is no longer to 1. You've been working with problems where A is equal to 1. With the same exact steps. So for number 5, alright, we're going to go ahead, do our X puzzle. So our X puzzle, that's A times C on the top, which nets me negative 60. And then on the very bottom, it's going to go ahead and be B, which is our 11. So we need to come up with two terms that are going to go ahead and multiply to get you negative 60, but adds up to 11. So pause right here and see if you can come up with those. Hopefully you paused, because those two terms are going to be positive 15 and negative 4. If you're struggling, it's a common thing to struggle with these. These are funky numbers, so use a calculator. Use a calculator to your advantage. So now I have 15 and negative 4. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing as before. I'm going to write down my first term. So my first term and my last term are going to remain the same. So that's going to be 3m squared. The two terms that are on the left and right, I'm going to make sure I not only include the numbers, but since all since the entire polynomial has a variable of m, that's going to be plus 15m minus 4m, and then I'm going to write my last term of negative 20. Okay, so the second and third terms come from the x puzzle, and the first and the very last term are actually from the original polynomial. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to go ahead and split up the first and second with the third and fourth. My GCF for this one is going to be 3m. So my GCF is 3m because they're both divisible by 3, and the largest amount of m's you can pull out of each one equivalently would be an m. And then this one, since it leads with a negative, the third term leads with a negative, the GCF for this one is going to be negative 4. And there's not going to be an m for this one because that negative 20 isn't attached to a variable. So we're going to go ahead and factor this first and second using the GCF 3m, so that'll be 3m, and it'll be m plus 5. If I go ahead and do the second one, it'll be negative 4. And if I divide the third term by negative 4 and the fourth term by negative 4, that'll be m plus 5. If you've done this so far, and you have the two parentheses exactly the same, it's a good sign that you're doing it correctly. So it'll be m plus 5. All right, m plus 5. And then I'm going to go ahead, take whatever's on the outside. That'll be 3m minus 4. Now, I said earlier that people are going to try to take the shortcut. They picked up, okay, whatever's in the x puzzle from the left and right, that's going to go ahead and be the terms of the parentheses. But notice that there is a 3 now. So when a is greater than 1, if it's any other number besides 1, you need to make sure that you don't go straight to the shortcut. Do the x puzzle, separate using the little fence thing, and then pull out the GCF and factor. All right? Let's try one last one. All right? So that way I'm reducing some of your homework load. But try this one on your own. All right? So I'm going to do number 10. All right? So pause, identify your A, B, and C, set up your X puzzle, and do your fence. So pause right now. All right. Hopefully you paused. So my A for this one is 5. My B is going to be 12. And my C is going to be negative 9. All right? I'm going to create my X puzzle over here. So I'm going to do all the work for number 10. I know it's all over the place right now, but number 10. So when I do my X puzzle, A times C, that's going to be negative 45. And my B is going to be 12. And for this right over here, there's a lot of ways you can do it. I believe this one is going to be 15 times negative 3, because 15 times negative 3 gets me negative 45. But then I go 15 plus negative 3, that gets me positive 12. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and write down my first term. So I got 5n squared. My first term in my x puzzle on the left would be 15, but I'm going to include an n because that's the variable in the problem. And then the next one would be negative 3 and include the n. Good, that's from the problem. And then minus 9. I'm going to separate the first and second term with the third and fourth. Find the GCF. Well, the GCF between the 15n squared and the 15n was 5n. So that's going to be 5n, parentheses, and then it'll be n plus 3 after you pull out the 5n. And then the GCF for these two is negative 3, so it's going to be negative 3, and it'll be n plus 3. It's a good sign that this and this are the same. Your final answer for this one is going to be n plus 3, 5n minus 3. All right? So notice that the process is exactly the same, but it's really hard if you don't practice this method due to the fact that the guessing game, while you're still going to get there, you could probably do like 5 or 6 of these type of problems within a span of like maybe like 7-8 minutes. But if you go ahead and try the guessing game, it's going to take you even longer to just do one compared to 5 or 6. So definitely factor the master factoring using the X puzzle and the bridge. All right. Take care, guys. Stay safe. If you have any questions, right, just hit me up anytime, email or Canvas. All right. Later.